Hello once more, friends. I am OmnusI, here in my lair, welcoming you back for another question from the RPG Brigade of Facebook, as part of the RPG A Day Challenge. This question is the 20th question, set for the 20th of August. Which game mechanic inspires your play the most? Now, I have played a number of games, and I have purchased several others for reading material and, other inspiration and entertainment. And I can think of all the different mechanics that are used in all of the various games. It would be hard to pick out one thing that one game does that really inspires me. So I'm going to go a little bit more meta with this one, rather than singling out one system and going with it. The mechanic in my mind that inspires me the most is tweaking, which is inserting bonuses or penalties in-game, usually without referring to any resources, to adequately and realistically adjudicate differences in difficulties based on things the players do. And this is handled in different ways, but in almost all games it is possible to do this. So, for example, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons has an interesting system called Advantage. Advantage basically means that if you are going to do something and you have a better than normal chance of doing it, you roll 2 dice and you take the better of the 2, which gives you a significant chance, improvement of your chances of success. Even if your chance is relatively small, rolling twice and taking the better is a good thing generally. The opposite is also true. There's a disadvantage where you roll 2 dice and take the worst, so your chances of hideously botching are increased. But that's a bit of a sledgehammer tactic to use for many things. So, therefore, if I see a player is trying something that may not be distinct enough to give advantage, oftentimes a quick bonus here and there, lowering the difficulty by a little bit instead, or if the character thought ahead enough to cover their tracks and make a better effort of it than just saying, I'm going to use this skill, oftentimes letting them fail forward, where their failure may not get them what they wanted, but it gives them a decent second chance, or a lesser success than what they originally had intended. 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is actually kind of a tricky one because the advantage-disadvantage umbrella covers a lot. And it's actually fairly elegant. You just hand out advantage and tell them to roll 2 dice and take the best. It's fine. And the players very quickly learn that that is a big bonus. However, 5th edition is one of the few games that has that elegant of a system. Cut my teeth in AD&D, 2nd edition D&D, and 3rd edition D&D, and those games giving out a quick +2 to a hit or to a miss, whether you tell the player or not, is a way to accurately, considering all of the conventions of the game and the abstractions that many of these mechanics represent, but showing players that if they work and think out a situation to give them the best chance. If they're climbing a wall, perhaps using tools to help them climb rather than just trying to free scale. Using ropes, pitons, climbing grips, crampons on the feet, and claws and things. I'm not much of a mountain climber myself, but, there are things that people have used for a very long time that could give you bonuses here and there. Likewise, if somebody is doing something that makes their job more difficult, They want to try to cross the tightrope, but they want to jump over an obstacle of some sort. Well, that's something that a quick penalty can take care of. It can be done on the fly, no worries. Or when you are running a game like, say, Warhammer 40,000, which is based on percentile dice rolling. The players know what their statistic is. And the usual mechanic is you roll the dice and you try to get a percentage that is equal to or less than your attribute. And as they're playing Dark Heresy, their numbers are all, 40 or less. So most things seem to be very difficult. Well, not everything is, though. Some things are worth rolling for in case disaster happens, but not so much that they should only have a chance equal to their relative attribute. So a lot of times, I just tell them to roll and tell me how much they succeeded by, or failed by. And oftentimes, if they failed by a small margin, they sometimes find what they tried still succeeded because it wasn't as difficult as they had thought. Which can be encouraging. Sometimes you look at a number and you think, my attribute is so low, I don't have any chance of doing this. And then wringing success out of what seemed to be impending failure. It requires a bit of moxie, and it requires having a pretty firm grasp of the world and the situation in your mind. What is possible, what is difficult, and what is easy. But once you have that, you can tinker a little bit with those kind of things. What really helped me to learn that, though, was the original World of Darkness setting. The Game Master would set a target number that the player would roll dice against from their dice pool, trying to get to that number or higher. That was the ultimate for me for adjudicating difficulty. If, for example, since you rolled a 10-sided die, the best you could roll is a 10, the worst is a 1. If you were just going to see how many dice you had could propel you to success, like say you were trying to uncontestedly pick up a heavy weight, you would just take a number of dice equal to the points in strength that you had, roll them, and see how many you could get against a relatively low target number, usually a 4, I believe. And the more you had, the better you did. If you picked up 1, then you would be able to get it up to your knees, and not much more than that. Wasn't a very good effort, or you didn't have a lot of dice to roll with. If you were able to, get 5 successes, you picked it up, you pressed it over your head a couple of times for effect, and then just kind of casually dropped it, and looked really cool doing it. So it gave me a chance to tell a story that was aided by being able to adjust difficulty. And then sometimes all the adjustments in the world won't stop impending disaster, and sometimes they won't curtail somebody from achieving beyond what you had imagined they were going to do. That's the way dice work. But that mechanic, some people will look at a book and they will look up every single modifier that something has and apply it because that's what they are familiar with. That's what they think is fair and the correct way of doing things. In my experience, speed and not interrupting a game by looking up numbers and things like that is by far the best way of going. Especially if you have a certain level of comfort and self-possession about how you run your game. Your players will eventually learn. I'm going to roll and I'm going to give it my best shot. And in my case, the message that I'm trying to pass on to my players is that if you think about things and you try to set up the situation much as you would do in real life, if you're standing in an alley and you have to jump across, say, a pool of battery acid that you don't want to get into, would you just walk up to the edge and jump over? Would you get a running jump? Would you look over for that big flat of cardboard you could lay over it and try to not to splash yourself as you go across? Things like that I take into account in game and then adjudicate how much of an advantage it is. Sometimes even nullifying a challenge if you're clever enough. And that's the kind of encouragement that I give to my players. It's just try things. even if sometimes they seem gonzo, if it's in character and it's at all possible, sometimes good things happen, especially if you think out what you're going to do and think for your character the ways that they can make it more likely to occur because of prepossession, planning, and sometimes just having a crystal idea themselves that they can relate. If they describe how they are, pulse pounding, they run up to giving themselves time to run up to full speed and then gathering themselves up and leaping across the pool of acid. Well, for that narration alone, I would give you a bonus. So that's what I am inspired by continually, is mastering my craft by employing this method of, looking and refereeing situations and, helping my players to become more interactive with their stories. So that's my answer to this. It's not a particular game mechanic, but it works for almost all of them. There's almost always a certain level that us as game masters can do to tell a story that makes it come to life more than just dry numbers and attribute bonuses and advantages and things like that. So that's my answer. I hope you liked it. I'm OmnusI, here once more in my lair. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it, and it goes a long ways towards helping me reach out to others. And, of course, the greatest thing that you can do for me, please comment below whatever you think of. Do you think this is DM cheating? I know a few people who really don't like that method, but I'm interested to hear from your viewpoint as well. So look forward to hearing from any of you who choose to comment. Thank you once more, and I'll see you next time here at the Lair of OmnusI. Farewell.